They looked like ordinary Chevys, Camaro coupes, Impalas, Corvettes, parked like any other car of their era, but hidden beneath their steel and fiberglass skins were engines so rare, so explosive, that today they sell for millions. These are the forgotten legends that quietly outprice modern supercars. Top 1. 1969 Corvette ZL1. At first glance, it looked like just another late 60s Corvette. Fiberglass curves stretched low to the pavement, pop-up headlights blinking like a predator at rest. The paint could be Marlboro maroon, Daytona yellow, or simple Cortez silver. Parked on a dealership floor, it fooled everyone. Nobody outside the inner circle suspected this quiet stingray carried a secret capable of embarrassing Ferraris. The 1969 Corvette ZL1 wasn't advertised in glossy brochures. It wasn't a car you stumbled upon, it was a car you had to know how to order, buried in Chevrolet's internal codes. Outwardly, it wore the same Coke bottle hips, chrome bumpers, and rally wheels as any other 69. Step into the cabin, and the disguise continued. Black vinyl bucket seats, aircraft-style console, teakwood accents on the dash. A Corvette buyer could tick boxes for AM/FM radios or air conditioning, but the ZL1 owner usually skipped comfort. This car existed for one reason: raw speed, wrapped in everyday Corvette clothes. The disguise unraveled under the hood. Instead of the standard iron block big blocks, the ZL1 carried an all-aluminum 427 cubic inch V8, the legendary racing engine lifted straight from Can-Am development. Officially rated at 430 horsepower, dyno pulls revealed over 550. Lighter by nearly 100 pounds than its L88 cousin, it transformed the Corvette into a predator designed for the quarter mile. Only 2 ZL1 Corvettes were ever assembled at the factory, 2 ghosts hidden among tens of thousands of production cars. When one appeared at R.M. Sotheby's, the world gasped. Estimates soared to $2.63 million, outpricing almost every modern Ferrari or Lamborghini. Performance proved its worth. 0 to 60 arrived in the mid-4-second range. The quarter mile lit up at low 12s, with trap speeds near 118 mph. For 1969, these were absurd figures, quicker than Lamborghini Miuras or Porsche 911s, and rivaling purpose-built drag machines. Yet the ZL1 wore a factory VIN, titled and tagged like any other Corvette. Inside, it remained Spartan but recognizable. Factory gauges, rally dash cluster, and minimal trim. Outside, nothing screamed million-dollar unicorn. That was the genius. It looked like a stingray, but it struck like a missile. Even the automotive press of the day hardly knew it existed. Whispers circulated about an aluminum block monster, but few ever saw one. Decades later, collectors call it the Ghost Corvette. Owners describe it as brutal, yet balanced, savage acceleration, coupled with Corvette's trademark steering precision. It was muscle car excess refined into surgical speed. If 2 cars could haunt the imagination for half a century, what happens when Chevrolet built 5 bare-knuckle machines designed only for domination? Those weren't street sleepers at all. They were open declarations of war. Top 2. 1963 Corvette Grand Sport. It didn't look like a Corvette you could buy at your local dealership. Shorter, wider, stripped-to-the-bone Chevrolet's 1963 Corvette Grand Sport was the car that slipped through the cracks of corporate politics. To the untrained eye, it looked like a stingray with fender flares. To racers, it was a declaration of independence. The story began with Zora Arkus Duntov, the restless engineer often called the father of the Corvette. He believed America's sports car could topple Europe's best if only freed from GM's bureaucracy. Officially, GM banned factory racing after 1957, but Duntov had other plans. He envisioned a lightweight Corvette that would stand wheel-to-wheel with Ferraris and Shelby's new Cobras. The Grand Sport looked familiar yet alien, a 1963 split-window coupe reborn with swollen fenders, scooped hoods, and riveted panels. Chrome was shaved, bumpers minimized, and every ounce of fat trimmed away. Step inside and you saw no luxury, just thin vinyl bucket seats, a sparse dash with race-ready gauges, bare fiberglass panels, and a roll cage poking into the cabin. No radios, no comfort features, just a stripped-down cockpit for survival at 180h. It was the Corvette boiled down to its fighting weight. The twist was the math. Chevrolet produced tens of thousands of Corvettes in 1963, but only 5 Grand Sports escaped before executives shut the project down. Under the hood, each carried a 377 cubic inch, small block V8 with exotic aluminum internals, dry sump lubrication, and wild cams. Output was advertised at 485 horsepower, but insiders swore the number was even higher. With a curb weight of just 1,900 pounds, nearly 1,000 pounds lighter than a stock Stingray, the Grand Sport could rocket from 0 to 60 in under 4 seconds, blaze the quarter mile in the low 11s, and stretch its legs to more than 180 mph. Today, each Grand Sport is valued at well over $5 million, a figure that eclipses the sticker prices of McLarens, Lamborghinis, and Ferraris alike. GM pulled the plug in fear of violating its own racing ban, but the 5 cars lived on. At Nassau and Sebring, legends like Roger Penske and A.J. Foyt drove them like weapons, shocking crowds as Corvettes left Cobras behind. Over the years, the survivors migrated to private collections and museums. Fans line up just to glimpse one because the chances of seeing a Grand Sport run at full throttle are almost zero. Collectors whisper that even among Corvettes, the Grand Sport is a holy relic, a symbol of what might have been if GM had unleashed Duntov's vision. More than half a century later, the car remains proof that Corvette engineering could rival any European thoroughbred when given the chance. If 5 cars could terrify Ferraris and rewrite Corvette history, what about the ones so rare only 12 were built, stuffed with a monster LS6 and nearly forgotten by time? Top 3. 1971 Corvette ZR2. Most Corvettes of the early 70s were about style curves, chrome, and cruising on sunny weekends. The 1971 Corvette ZR2, however, was not one of them. It looked like just another Stingray coupe or convertible, but under the fiberglass skin lurked an option package so extreme that only a dozen people on Earth ever experienced it. On the surface, the ZR2 appeared ordinary. The long swooping hood, hideaway headlights, and sharply creased fenders were classic C3 Corvette trademarks. The cabin offered bucket seats wrapped in vinyl, a fighter jet-style center console, full-gauge cluster, and optional tilt wheel. But buyers who ticked the ZR2 option code weren't there for comfort. Air conditioning, radios, and power accessories were stripped away. The car was ordered barebones because the ZR2 was Chevrolet's backdoor ticket to all-out performance. Hidden beneath the familiar exterior was the LS6, 454 cubic inch big block, a brutal iron monster that was already famous in the Chevelle SS. The Corvette chassis, lighter and more aerodynamic, made the engine even deadly. The numbers tell the real story. Chevrolet produced only 12 ZR2s in 1971, with just 2 convertibles included in that total. Each one carried the LS6 rated at 425 horsepower, but dyno runs suggested outputs well beyond 450. These weren't boulevard cruisers, they were fire-breathing missiles disguised as factory Corvettes. When one finally surfaced at Mecum Indy 2022, the world took notice. Bidding shot sky high until the hammer dropped at an astonishing $962,500. Suddenly, a Corvette option box that once cost a few $100s had become worth nearly $1 million. Performance lived up to the myth. With its LS6 torque, the ZR2 could rocket from 0 to 60 in just over 4 seconds and tear down the quarter mile in the low 12-second range at over 115 mph. That made it faster than many European exotics of the day, yet it carried the humble look of any other C3 Corvette. Inside, drivers faced a Spartan cockpit, no luxuries, no distractions, just the essentials needed to survive the speed. Collectors today call it the forgotten LS6 Corvette, a machine so rare most enthusiasts never see one outside a glossy auction catalog. Its $1 million price tag proves that rarity and raw power together can eclipse the allure of modern supercars. But if 12 cars could vanish into obscurity and return as $1 million legends, imagine the Corvette that came before it, just 20 built, armed with a brutal big block, and now worshipped as one of the ultimate muscle machines. Top 4. 1967 Corvette L88. To the average buyer in 1967, it was just another Corvette Stingray, sleek, curvy, with side pipes that glistened in the sun. But those who knew the hidden option code L88 understood they were staring at a factory-built weapon disguised as America's sports car. Few were bold enough to order it, and fewer still could handle it. From the outside, the L88 looked no different than any other '67 Corvette. The aggressive split bumpers, sharp fender peaks, and fastback coupe profile offered little clue that this was a hand grenade on wheels. Inside, the deception continued. Vinyl bucket seats, a wood-rimmed steering wheel, rally-gauge cluster, and center console shifter. Buyers expecting luxury options were disappointed. Air conditioning, radios, even heat or delete were part of the deal. Chevrolet stripped comfort away because the L88 wasn't built for the street. It was engineered to dominate the strip and the track. Underneath, a reinforced suspension, heavy-duty brakes, and posit-traction rear end hinted at what was coming. That secretly under the hood, instead of the common small block or standard 427 big block, the L88 carried a race-spec 427 cubic inch V8 with aluminum heads, solid lifters, and 12.51 compression. Officially rated at a laughable 430 horsepower, dyno runs confirmed outputs closer to 560. It demanded 103-octane fuel, essentially race gas, and ran so hot that Chevrolet discouraged casual use. Only 20 L88 Corvettes were built in 1967, making them rarer than almost any production Corvette in history. At Barrett-Jackson 2014, one example stunned the world when it sold for $3.85 million, instantly outpricing modern Lamborghinis and even some Bugattis. Performance figures were staggering for the era: 0 to 60 in about 4.2 seconds, quarter-mile times in the low 12s, and top speeds pushing past 150 mph placed the L88 in rarefied company. Yet it wore the plain clothes of a regular Stingray, leaving bystanders clueless to its real potential. Drivers described it as violent but precise, every throttle blip a test of courage, every gear change a hammer blow. Collectors today view the L88 not just as a Corvette, but as a rolling piece of motorsport history, a car that blurred the line between street legality and pure racing machinery. It represents the last gasp of unfiltered American muscle before emissions rules began tightening the noose. If 20 cars could redefine Corvette history and command millions, what about the Chevrolet that carried the same LS6 Thunder but wore the shape of a full-bodied convertible? Top 5. 1970 Chevelle SS 454 LS6 convertible. At first sight, it looked like a boulevard cruiser, a big A-body convertible with room for 4, a drop-top roof, and stripes optional at the dealer. But when ordered with the LS6 option, the 1970 Chevelle SS convertible was no mere family ragtop, it was a heavyweight street fighter disguised as a sunny day ride. From the outside, the LS6 Chevelle SS convertible looked almost tame. Some came with cowl induction hoods and black stripes, others wore plain pastel paint and hubcaps that fooled bystanders into thinking it was just another mid-size GM car. The chrome bumpers, wide grille, and squared-off stance were classic Chevelle cues. Drop the top and the interior was pure 1970 GM comfort. Vinyl bench or optional bucket seats, a center console with a horseshoe shifter, and a full-gauge cluster. Buyers could still order power windows, air conditioning, and radios, luxuries unheard of in most muscle cars. Yet lurking beneath all that comfort was the loudest statement GM ever made in the muscle era. The twist was the LS6 engine. Beneath the hood sat a 454 cubic inch big block V8, officially rated at 450 horsepower, but dyno tests showed closer to 500. This was the most powerful production engine Chevrolet had ever stuffed into a muscle car. While Chevrolet built 4,475 LS6 Chevelles total in 1970, only a tiny fraction were convertibles, believed to be around 95 produced, with about 26 verified survivors today. That scarcity has turned the LS6 convertible into one of the holy grails of muscle car collecting. In May 2024, a pristine example crossed the block at Mecum and hammered at $600,000, proof that a ragtop Chevelle could outprice modern exotics. On the strip, the LS6 convertible was deceptive. Top down, it looked like a car for beach runs, but floor the throttle and the beast revealed itself. 0 to 60 arrived in just over 5 seconds, with quarter-mile times in the low 13s at more than 108 mph figures that rivaled Shelby Mustangs and Mopar Hemis. The LS6 roared like rolling thunder, yet passengers still sat in comfort, listening to the radio with wind in their hair. Collectors now revere it as the wolf in drop-top clothing, a car that embodied both American excess and engineering brilliance. Its combination of muscle and luxury created one of the strangest paradoxes of the era: a convertible cruiser that could dominate drag strips. But if fewer than 100 convertibles could shake the collector market, imagine a Chevrolet built in even smaller numbers, barely 57 units, engineered not for comfort, but for drag strip annihilation. Huff 6, 1963 Impala Z11 427 lightweight. On the street, it looked like an ordinary full-size Chevrolet, an Impala with chrome trim, bench seats, and a conservative profile. But to those who read drag racing magazines in 1963, the Z11 badge whispered something else. It was Chevrolet's secret weapon, a car built not for Sunday cruises, but for one thing only: quarter-mile dominance. The Impala Z11 was born in the middle of Detroit's factory drag wars. Outwardly, it carried the long, clean lines of any other 1963 Impala two-door hardtop. The wide grille, dual headlights, and generous chrome gave it a family car face. Step inside and you found plain bench seats, a column shifter in some cases, and basic vinyl trim. Air conditioning, radios, and comfort options were absent. Chevrolet stripped weight wherever it could, using aluminum for the hood, fenders, and bumpers, and even thinner glass. From the curb, it still looked like a full-size Chevrolet you'd park in front of the diner, but beneath the skin, it was a racer in disguise. The twist was the engine. Chevrolet's Z11 package hid a 427 cubic inch W-Series V8, a stroked version of the 409, delivering a factory rating of 430 horsepower. In reality, with dual 4-barrel carburetors, solid lifters, and high compression, output was closer to 480 horsepower. Only 57 Impala Z11s were ever built, making it one of the rarest factory drag cars of the 1,960s. Period tests recorded quarter miles in the low 12s at speeds over 115 mph, numbers that turned family sedans into Cobra killers. Decades later, when one surfaced at auction, prices surged past $500,000, showing that collectors valued these lightweight giants higher than most modern supercars. For racers in the early 60s, the Z11 was the ticket to victory lane. At NHRA events, these full-size Chevrolets shocked crowds by blasting down the strip faster than smaller, lighter competitors. Drivers like Dino Don Nicholson made the Z11 a legend, its thunderous exhaust note and nose-high launches cementing its reputation. Yet on the street, it remained deceptive, an Impala in appearance, but a drag strip assassin in execution. Today, only a handful survive, carefully preserved in collections or displayed in museums. Enthusiasts call them time bombs in tuxedos, cars that looked too polite to be dangerous until the Christmas tree lights went green. With values climbing, the Z11 stands as proof that Chevrolet's factory skunkworks once went to war with subtlety and brute force rolled into one. If 57 cars could dominate drag strips and leave Mopars trembling, what about the Chevrolet that took the same 427 magic, wrapped it in a pony car body, and created a legend of its own? Top 7, 1969, Camaro ZL1. Parked beside any other 1969 Camaro, it didn't look like much. Same squared-off fenders, same cowl induction hood, same rally wheels. But whisper the code COPO 9560, and insiders knew they were staring at a monster in disguise. The 1969 Camaro ZL1 was a pony car that cost more than a Corvette and performed like a full-blown race car. Chevrolet built the Camaro to compete with the Mustang, but in 1969, a handful of dealers wanted more than style. They wanted domination. Enter Fred Gibb Chevrolet, who worked with Chevrolet's central office production order system to create a Camaro that no brochure dared advertise. Outwardly, the ZL1 Camaro looked like any SS or Copo car. Bold stripes optional, functional cowl induction scoop, chrome bumpers, and the clean, aggressive stance of a first-gen Camaro. Step inside and nothing betrayed its identity. Vinyl bucket seats, simple gauges, console shifter, even the option for a radio. But this was no street toy. Beneath its skin lay the most exotic heart ever fitted to a Camaro. That heart was the ZL142, 7 cubic inch all-aluminum V8. Borrowed from Corvette racing programs, it weighed nearly 100 pounds less than a standard big block, and pumped out well over 500 horsepower, though Chevrolet conservatively rated it at 430. Just 69 Camaro ZL1s were built in 1969, each costing almost double the price of a regular SS396. The sticker shock kept most buyers away, but for drag racers, this was the golden ticket. At Barrett-Jackson in 2020, one sold for $1.09 million, officially putting the Camaro ZL1 in the same price league as McLarens and Lamborghinis. Performance was as raw as the price suggested. 0 to 60 came in the low 4-second range, with quarter-mile blasts as quick as 11.8 seconds at over 120 mph when properly tuned. In 1969, that made the ZL1 one of the quickest factory cars on Earth. Yet to the casual eye, it was just another Camaro, blending in with the thousands on American streets. Racers like Dick Harrell turned them into legends at NHRA strips, while collectors decades later hunted them like rare diamonds. Inside, the driving experience was brutal, heavy clutch, screaming redline, and a car that demanded respect with every shift. Today, surviving ZL1s are revered as the ultimate first-gen Camaro car that combines stealth scarcity and staggering speed. Its seven-figure values prove that the pony car built for drag strips has outpriced the supercars it once humbled. And that is the cruel irony of the ZL1. It looked like any other Camaro sitting in a dealer's lot, but behind the wheel it demanded race gas, iron nerves, and a fat wallet. A factory pony car in name, yet in truth it was a barely disguised race machine one that left even seasoned drivers shaken long after the quarter-mile lights went dark. 7 machines, each built in numbers so small they might as well be myths, yet every one redefined what Chevrolet was capable of. From ghostly Corvettes with all-aluminum hearts to drop-top Chevelles that embarrassed Ferraris, these cars prove rarity and raw power always carry the highest value. Most of us will never see them in person, but their stories remind us that legends aren't always flashy. They're often the quiet ones hiding in plain sight. If you enjoyed this journey into Chevrolet's rarest creations, make sure to subscribe to Legendary Classic Cars and join us for the next forgotten chapter of muscle car history.